HealthCo project is a flagship innovation of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, supported by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Australia CN Council. So this project applies a transformative approach to assist local health systems in the Philippines cope with the short and long-term impacts of the current pandemic. So this project brings together experts from relevant fields, including public health, mental health, health human resource, and clinical practice to mentor local academics and public health workers using online and virtual tools. Well, the typical or traditional forms of engagement is not available due to social distancing restrictions.
And so, our project anticipates to increase awareness of the roles of the universities and the local government units to avert the impacts of the pandemic and to create a sustainable and supportive community of practice between the two. We plan to achieve this by first identifying the general and specific needs of the community. We also plan to develop a nurturing virtual learning environment by implementing innovative strategies of knowledge transfer. And lastly, we support sustainable local and national networks to facilitate knowledge sharing and mentoring for specific health and systems issues.
Our project partners are located across different regions in the Philippines, including Angeles City, together with Holy Angel University, Isabela Province with the LaSalle Health Science Institute, Rizal Province with Far Eastern University, Ormoc City with Visayas State University, and Davao City with Ateneo de Davao University.
At the moment, we conducted focus group discussions with all our partner universities and LGUs. We also started building our online repository for research projects and theses produced by our partner universities. This platform will make information and evidences available for all stakeholders.
So, in the next coming months, we will be conducting a number of planning sessions with our local partners to ensure that all the system issues identified from our data collection are addressed. We will conduct a number of capacity building activities, including webinar and mentoring sessions. And lastly, but most importantly, we will also explore further funding opportunities or further funding options to ensure that this project will continue and all the impacts or outcomes that we're seeing right now will be sustained.
Day. On behalf of the Filipino nurses here in Bahrain, congratulations on your Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day. Truly, we hope to rise to the challenges today and for the next decade.
Hello there! Congratulations on your second Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day from Bahrain!
To the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, I would like to say congratulations on your anniversary. Let us continue to be the voice to lead and the force for change. More power and God bless.
Good morning, everyone, and a very pleasant day to all, for anywhere you are in the globe. Due to the overwhelming positive perception of the webinar, we will be live streaming via the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network Facebook page. Thank you for your support.
When sharing your thoughts and insights regarding the webinar on social media, please use the hashtags Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day 2021 and FNDD 2021. Before we officially start the program, let us get to know one another. We may log in at mentimeter.com using the passcode on the screen or scan the QR code and answer the following questions. First question is, where are you in the world? Okay, majority of our participants come from the Philippines. We have from Manila, I see from Bacolod City, Kuwait, Angeles City, Zambales, in the office, in this webinar. Okay, now we proceed to the second question. Thank you very much for the responses. What nursing role do you play? Most of the attendees are nurse educators or clinical instructors. Second, we have nurse managers or administrators. We have community health nurses. We also have advanced or specialized nursing roles. and the direct or primary care or home care or institutional nursing. And we have a few nursing students here with us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for participating. We shall officially start the program in a few moments. So a few reminders to the audience. Let us observe the following webinar etiquette. First is, please keep your videos and microphones off. Second, for comments, questions, and other concerns, please use the Q&A feature. Third, keep questions and comments short and to the point. Respectful discussion and participation are encouraged. And lastly, please fill up the evaluation form at the end of the assembly, as this is the requirement for your certificates.
All nurses need well-developed leadership skills to address the rapidly changing complexities of 21st century healthcare. Unfortunately, many nurses experience some level of self-doubt about their ability to lead.
Leading in uncertain times will suggest 3 strategies that emerging nurse leaders may use to gain confidence and skill in their ability to lead. This includes identifying a mentor and positive role models to guide their leadership development, adopting a global mindset about healthcare and nursing, and enjoying the leadership journey itself.
Good morning to one and all. I am Elmer,
I am Precious.
and we shall be with you in the whole course of today's session.
We honor the Lord as we all together pray the Angelite prayer, to be followed by the singing of the national anthem.
Angelite Prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, we glorify you for giving us the Angelite charism. We thank you for the gifts of your Son, Jesus Christ, who is the way, truth, and life. We bless you for the continuous guidance of the Holy Spirit. Grant us, we pray, courage and strength, that we may give perpetual praise to you in whatever we do. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. O holy guardian angels, guide us and protect us. Laus Deo Semper. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Bayang magiliw, penas ng silanganan, alog ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiil. Sa lagat at bundok, sa simula, sa langit ng bughaw, may dilakang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdinig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailang pambay di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walang pagsinta, buhay lang isa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mag-aapi, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
To gain insights on actual leadership in an uncertain time, let us hear the words of the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
My warmest greetings to the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, as it spearheads the second Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day. I laud your organization for your initiatives that support and enhance the professional capabilities of Filipino nurses who are working overseas, and for fostering camaraderie among them wherever they may be in the world. May this occasion serve as a testament to Filipino nurses' caring spirit, bravery, and resilience to tend to the sick, especially now as we face a global health crisis. Through the occasion, let us celebrate our countrymen's invaluable contribution to healthcare and inspire them to carry on and overcome emerging medical and nursing challenges. On behalf of a grateful nation, I thank and honor all our nurses for their nurturing and noble spirit during these trying times. Now, more than ever, your excellent and compassionate service is what our people truly need. Long live Filipino nurses.
Furthering the leadership in the Philippines, we hear from the Vice President, Maria Leonor G. Robredo.
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat, lalo na sa mga miyembro ng Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network. At congratulations sa inyong ikalawang Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day. Sana lahat kayo ay nasa mabuting kalagayan. Over the many decades, the Filipino nurse has become one of the most recognizable faces of healthcare around the world and remains one of its most resilient pillars. You're truly our modern-day heroes, providing for the needs of your families here in the Philippines while seeing to the health of patients in your adopted homes abroad. Sa kabila ng hamong dala ng COVID-19, patuloy kayo nagsisilbing inspirasyon sa aming lahat. You see us at our worst sometimes and are patient with us, especially when we don't understand what is happening to our bodies and become crippled by anger, confusion, or fear. Inaalagaan ninyo ang aming mga magulang, anak, at kaibigan, while the doctors work in tandem with you to bring our loved ones back to health. Sinusubuan ninyo kami when we are too weak to feed ourselves. You save lives every day. I am here to say that we at the OVP see and recognize your sacrifices and will always be with you in facing any adversity. Gusto ko ding idiin, napakarami namin dito na nagbubuhos ng lahat upang maampat ang epekto ng pandemya. Sa ganitong paraan, dalangin ko sana na ampat din ang mga pangamba ninyo. There are healthcare workers like you, volunteers and community frontliners from all over who are doing all they can. So focus on your work, keep yourselves as safe as possible. We are holding the line back home. Sa aming mga frontliners sa Pilipinas man o sa ibang bansa, saludo kami sa inyong walang sawang paglilingkod at pagbubukas loob. Sa pag-abot sa inyo ng mensaheng ito, sana lagi ninyong tandaan, hindi kayo nag-iisa. Maraming salamat at muli, isang maligayang Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day. Mabuhay kayong lahat.
School leadership has also been challenged because of the pandemic. Let us hear from the visionary leader of Holy Angel University on how he traversed the road filled with challenges in advancing quality education amidst the pressing situation. Friends, let us welcome Dr. Luis Maria R. Calingo.
To our distinguished speaker, Dr. Carol Huston, to the members of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, to all the nursing doctoral students, faculty, and administrators from 16 colleges and universities in the Philippines, and to my colleagues in the School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences at Holy Angel University. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the globe you are. I am especially pleased that the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network is the principal organizer of this webinar. I say especially pleased because I was once part of the Filipino diaspora, having returned to the Philippines in 2015 after 35 years of living in the United States, where I built my academic career from scratch. In fact, it was at the California State University system, the same SUC system from where Dr. Huston retired, where I spent the first 23 or 20 some years of my academic life. Many of our friends in the United States belong to the Filipino diaspora, a very good number of them nurses. By my last reckoning, there are at least 9 million Filipinos overseas. You add about another million if you wish to include the undocumented migrants, otherwise known as the TNTs. It has been said that while Filipinos may leave the Philippines never leaves the Filipino. There had been references to the overseas Filipino worker as the new Filipino hero. Much of the rationale for this accolade has been the contribution to the economic upliftment of the communities they left behind. We know, for example, that 1 out of 5 students at Holy Angel University is the child of an overseas Filipino worker. What has been less covered in mass media is that concurrent with the monetary contributions of our Filipinos overseas, especially to their communities, many members of the Filipino diaspora are eager to contribute their knowledge and expertise to aid their homeland, the country of their birth. And several initiatives have aimed to tap these non-monetary contributions. For example, during the 1980s, during my early years in America, the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs initiated the formation of science and technology advisory councils in major cities around the world. And it encouraged Filipino overseas scientists to form associations and initiate knowledge transfers. Also, through the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, the TOC10 program, TOKTEN, which stood for Transfer of Technology through Expatriate Nationals, volunteers work with government agencies needing their expertise. In fact, it was UNDP's TOC10 program that has enabled my first giving back travels to the Philippines. The TOC10 program has ended, but the Department of Science and Technology still has a program called the Balik Scientist, which has been a continuation of the TOC10 concept. During the first decade of the 21st century, IT professionals and venture capitalists established the Brain Gain Network, which has attracted many Filipinos in science and technology. There are plans to expand the network to other disciplines such as healthcare, education, and to use the technologies of ICT to tap knowledge and skills abroad through online consultancies, mentoring, and discussions. Now, this is why I'm inspired by the work of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network. We currently face a pandemic, the likes of which mankind has not seen for over 100 years. Given the shortage of healthcare professionals in the Philippines, our country needs all the help that we could get. And more than ever, the ability to effectively and efficiently lead a network of healthcare providers, hospitals, nurses and other professionals, quarantine and isolation facilities, vaccination centers and technologies has become a very critical skill, especially when we are operating in a very resource-constrained environment. Leadership is indeed a very important attribute in today's, a very important skill in today's environment. And if we could draw from the lessons that we had at the university, that we learned as a result of our trying to respond effectively to the pandemic since last year, I could offer 2 very important concepts that pretty much governed our pandemic response. The first is management by fact. Arm yourselves with all the information that are available and make extrapolation scientifically as necessary. And the second being a strategic foresight, a prediction or a forecast based on your assessments, based on your best available information of where would higher education be 30 years from now or in the year 2030, if you want to be more specific, and then work your way backward. Okay? So it is in this light that we welcome this timely lecture by an internationally renowned leadership expert in the person of Dr. Nancy Huston. We welcome you, Dr. Huston, to our webinar. And as we say in the Philippines and at Holy Angel University, to God be the glory. Laos Deo Semper.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalingo. Biblically, diaspora meant the dispersal of the Israelites. Yet, in this modern period, one Filipino nurse led a group to change the connotation of diaspora into unity. The President and CEO of FAAN, Dr. Violeta Lopez, shall deliver the statement of purpose.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever the participants of this webinar will be from. With the ever-changing healthcare industry, leadership in nursing directly impacts an organizational drive, performance, and people, including patients and caregivers. Nursing leadership is one of the single most important factor in motivating and inspiring nurses who make up the majority of the healthcare workforce. A nurse leader within a healthcare organization represents the interest of the nursing profession. Reports show a strong correlation between nurse leaders with a strong team in improving patient outcomes, decreasing medical errors, and increasing staff retention. A nurse leader who maintains a healthy balance of managing people and processes will benefit the healthcare workforce as a whole. Today, we will be hearing more on nursing leadership from our renowned speaker, Professor Huston. So on behalf of the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, I would like to thank Holy Angel University for coordinating this webinar. And I sincerely thank Dr. Huston for agreeing to be our speaker for this webinar. Thank you very much, and I hope that you will continue to participate in the webinars organized by FAAN Network. And I hope that this information that you will receive today will motivate you and inspire you to be the future nurse leaders of the Philippines and of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Violeta for your leadership. It is indeed through your leadership that nurses all over the world are united for one cause, that is to advance nursing practice all over. Now, it's time to meet our esteemed resource speaker. Carol Huston received her Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree from the University of Iowa in 1977, her Master of Science in Nursing degree from the California State University at Chico in 1982, and her MPA and DPA from the University of Southern California in 1997.
Dr. Huston was a professor of nursing at California State University, Chico from 1982 to 2019. She served as director of the CSUC School of Nursing from 2010 to 2015 and has been recognized with Professor Emeritus status. Dr. Huston was named Master Teacher for CSUC from 1999 to 2001, Outstanding Teacher for 2001-2002, and Outstanding Professor for 2008-2009.
She also taught in the Family Nurse Practitioner Program at Western University of Health Sciences in Pomona, California from 1998 to 2006. In November 2007, Dr. Huston became a fellow in the American Academy of Nursing. In 2021, she was recognized as the University of Iowa College of Nursing Outstanding Alumni.
Dr. Huston is the co-developer of the Marquis-Huston model for teaching critical thinking, which has been recognized internationally by nurse scholars. Dr. Huston is also the author and co-author of 7 textbooks on leadership, management, and professional issues in nursing, with 24 editions in total, and has published over 150 articles in leading professional journals. Her co authored book, Leadership Roles and Management Functions in Nursing, is in its 10th edition and has been translated into 5 languages. Management Decision Making for Nurses was an American Journal of Nursing Book of the Year.
The sixth edition of Professional Issues in Nursing, Challenges and Opportunities will be published in 2022. The first edition of The Road to Leadership published in 2017, and the companion book The Road to Positive Work Cultures published in 2019. Her co-authored book Leadership and Management Tools for the New Nurse published in 2012. In addition, Dr. Huston co-authored her first children's book, When Little Girls Dream, in summer of 2019.
Dr. Huston is also a successful grant writer and served as a co-investigator of a $1 million HRSA grant from 1999 to 2004. She serves on the editorial board and manuscript reviewer for multiple journals.
Professional affiliations include ANA California and Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society of Nursing. She served as Region 1 Coordinator of SCTI from 1999 to 2001, on the Board of Directors from 2001 to 2005, as President-elect from 2005 to 2007, and as President from 2007 to 2009. As President, she was responsible for strategic planning, program implementation, and fiduciary oversight of approximately 130,000 nurses in 470 plus chapters in more than 90 countries.
Dr. Huston also served as an expert faculty member on the 2012-2013 STTI Nurse Faculty Mentored Leadership Development Program as lead faculty for the STTI Experience Nurse Faculty Academy from 2019 to 2014 to 2019, and as a co-chairperson of the 2010 International Year of the Nurse Initiative. She also served as a leadership consultant for the STTI Global Healthcare Leadership Institute from 2016 to 2019.
Dr. Huston is a frequent speaker at national and international nursing conferences and has keynoted more than 300 presentations worldwide. She also led nursing delegations to China, Vietnam, Cambodia, India, Russia, Cuba, Peru, Hungary, and Poland for the People to People Citizen Ambassador Program and NANDA Journeys.
She also served on the Board of Trustees for Enloe Medical Center in Chico, California from 2012 to 2020, serving as Secretary of that board in 2013, Vice Chair from 2014 to 2015, and as Chairperson from 2016 to 2019.
To learn about leading in uncertain times, let us welcome our resource speaker, Dr. Carol Huston, with a virtual round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. It is such an honor to be here. Oh my goodness, that was a long and absolutely wonderful introduction. I just am so appreciative for being invited to be here as a part of your day-to-day. And let me jump in here and share my screen here. And then we'll be able to get started. we go. I hope that all of you can see that. If not, somebody jump in and let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and get started.
So Carol, we can't see the presentation yet.
You can't. All right,
Yeah.
let me try to do that all again. Thank you for letting me know.
There.
All right, how are we looking now?
Looking great, Doc.
All right, thank you so much. Again, it really is my pleasure to be here. I would like to give a special thank you to Jerome and Noriel for not only inviting me to be here, but answering my questions and making this so simple to be a part of your celebration of nursing. I also want to give a call out to all of those nurse leaders who helped to put on this kind of event for all of you. It doesn't come together like this without a lot of hard work by a lot of people. So thank you again so very much. So this webinar today is really all about recognizing and thanking all of you who make such a difference in the lives of the people that you touch. I don't think there's anything more selfless in the world than dedicating your life to the care of others. And as we heard kind of in the introductory comments, most of you do that in very different ways. But I really want to focus tonight on what I believe that you have in common. And I think that that's the potential for leadership. And when I talk about nurses as leaders, I'm not talking about nurses who have any official title or role or responsibility. I'm talking about nurses who are willing to take risk and work hard to make life better for those that they care for. In fact, I personally believe that all nurses can and absolutely must be leaders. Unfortunately, though, as I have traveled the world over the last couple of decades, one of the constants that I hear from nurses worldwide is that many believe that they don't have adequately developed leadership skills for some of the 21st century challenges that they're facing. Sometimes it's because they haven't had formal training in leadership or management or education. Sometimes nurses had that education, but perhaps they didn't pay that close of attention because they weren't sure that it was really going to apply to them. And sometimes people really did listen, but they were really unprepared for how quickly they were going to be asked to assume leadership roles and make some very, very critical decisions. Now, the good news is that I think that most nurses have far better developed leadership skills than they give themselves credit for. But the road to becoming a nurse leader can sometimes be very challenging. And that's especially true during uncertain times. So I'm going to talk very briefly this morning. Sorry, it's evening here in California. I'm going to talk very briefly about three things that I hope will make your road to leadership just a little bit less bumpy. And my first suggestion, which I'm going to probably spend the most amount of time on because I really think it's so important, is perhaps most important to those of you who are just beginning your leadership journey as a professional nurse. And that's the importance of finding a mentor and positive role models to share your journey. When I talk about mentoring, I'm talking about an intense one-on-one relationship between an experienced professional and a less experienced one. It's no longer really related to age. It's all about experience and knowledge levels. But when you're in a mentoring relationship, a mentor takes that novice under their wing and they teach them, they guide them, they protect them, and they help them to learn and do whatever it's necessary to be successful in their new role. Now, many novice nurses need time to learn the complexities of the professional nursing role. And having the protection of a mentor will be absolutely critical to your success. Unfortunately, nursing has earned a reputation for at times not being kind to its newest members in the profession. We also see a fair degree of bullying and horizontal violence in nursing. So if you can find a mentor who can help you, show you the ropes, tell you about some of those hidden organizational taboos, and give you that in that we all need when we first get started in our career, because having a mentor is really important to getting off on the right foot as a new nurse. But it's not just new nurses who need to have mentors to show them the ropes. It can also be experienced nurses in new roles or new settings. And the best example I can give you of that comes from my own experience at my very first faculty meeting as a new academic. I had come to academe from being a middle level manager in a hospital setting. And that was a job I held for some time, and over the course of time gained some knowledge, and I think earned the respect of my colleagues. And I think that I made an assumption when I moved to academe that that would automatically follow me. So at my very first faculty meeting, the topic was pass-fail grading. And while I no longer remember exactly what my opinion was on the topic, I did feel that it was appropriate to jump right in and share that opinion. Now, as you might guess, that was a mistake. I can still remember the silence in the room. And one of the most senior, experienced faculty stopped. Everyone looked at her and she turned to me and she said, "Well, Carol, perhaps after you've been here a while, your opinion will matter more." Now, I was pretty speechless. And some of you are probably thinking that was pretty rude and inappropriate. And it was. It actually was incivil, and it should never have happened because bullying and incivility should never be tolerated. But the reality is I was a newcomer to the organization, and I really hadn't paid my dues yet in terms of understanding the bigger issues of academe, which are very different from those that we find in practice. So when you're the newcomer in an organization, you have to be flexible. You're going to probably have to work harder than many other people, and you have to build a support system for yourself. When I look back at that first faculty meeting, I realized how little I really knew about either the formal or informal power structure within the School of Nursing. And I think if having a mentor would have helped me to understand the politics of this new organization and who the key players were. I also think that a mentor would have kindly reminded me of the importance of paying dues first and then gaining credibility. But having a mentor is really only valuable if the relationship is truly honest and constructive. And that means telling you the truth, even if it hurts sometimes. I was very fortunate to have Bessie Marquis as my mentor when I first joined the Chico State faculty, and this is the two of us in the early 1980s. One of Bessie's greatest strengths was her honesty. It wasn't always easy to hear what she had to say, but in the end, it always made me a better person and a stronger leader. Because remember that self-image or self-perception is not always accurate. A mentor will tell you how other people perceive you. And then it's up to you to decide whether that's how you perceive yourself or whether that's something there needs to change. And that's a process that sometimes takes a bit of time. You're also going to want to try to find a mentor who's willing to be your cheerleader. In other words, you want to find someone that's going to inspire you to take some risk and to attempt to do things that perhaps you might not have thought yourself capable of doing. I'm not talking about someone who sets impossible goals for you, but I think having somebody really believe in you and push you to think bigger is a tremendous gift. The importance of this in a mentor is something I don't think I fully appreciated for many years. But Bessie always had a vision for me that was greater than I had for myself. She told me never to let an opportunity go by or to say no because I was too afraid to take that risk. For example, I always had a huge fear of public speaking. Not your normal fear, a huge fear. She told me that this was something that I could overcome, but that it wouldn't be easy, and that I would likely get discouraged along the path. She was right. It took me a number of years before I could actually speak in front of a crowd and enjoy myself. But because it was not an easy goal to achieve, I also consider it to be one of the most significant accomplishments in my life. I can also remember the first time that Bessie said that we should write a book together. I was a junior faculty member, and I can remember looking at her and thinking, "You must be joking, Bessie." Writing my thesis seemed like a monumental task. And while I love to write and Bessie had great ideas, it just seemed so overwhelming to me. But with Bessie's vision and our hard work and collaboration together, we wrote 11 books together, and now I've done 14 of them by myself. Bessie also suggested early on the different things I would be able to do once I completed my doctorate. Again, I would just look at her and think, oh my goodness, I have a husband and small children, and I'm still paying for school loans for my undergraduate education. So I had a lot on my plate. But once Bessie planted that seed, I did start to think about it. And I did go back to school. And so many of the things that she envisioned for me did become possible once I had achieved that goal. And finally, at least 15 years ago, Bessie said to me casually one day, "I know that Sigma Theta Tau International is your professional organization of choice. And I think someday you should set your sights on running for president of that organization." Again, I thought she had lost her mind. I couldn't even fathom that kind of opportunity and potential. But a short decade after, that dream became true for me. The reason I share this all with you is I often wonder if I would have been able to achieve what I have in my life without Bessie. I'm not saying that in the end it didn't take a lot of hard work and energy on my part, but I'm not sure that I would have ever seen the possibilities without her. So it was her vision and willingness to be my cheerleader that I think really made a difference. So I hope all of you find a Bessie for your life that can make a difference for you in your career. I also said that positive role models were important, and that's because positive role models are contagious. The inverse is true as well. If you primarily hang out with disgruntled, tired, complaining people, then that's more likely the behavior that you're going to adopt. So the good news is there are many, many positive role models out there, particularly in nursing. I could think the best example I can give you of the impact of positive role models in your life goes back to one of the very first Sigma conventions I ever attended. I was late getting there for the luncheon. And being late, I had to be seated at one of the few spots that was left in the room, and that happened to be at the very front of the room. Now, you can imagine my shock when I discovered that I had been seated with some of the most preeminent nursing leaders at that time, including Lucy Kelly, Imogene King, Sister Rosemary Donnelly, and Virginia Henderson. Now, I was very intimidated. I really wanted to kind of shrink down into my seat and disappear because these are people I had studied in school. I had read their books. I had studied their models. And the most amazing part about this whole luncheon was that I discovered these people weren't some distant theoretical icon. They were real nurse leaders. They welcomed me to the table. They made me feel like I was already a very important part of nursing. And I've often thought about this luncheon and really came to recognize that being an international nursing leader doesn't mean being distant and removed. It's about being real and accessible to others. So find your positive role model and stick close and learn from them. A second suggestion that I have for building your leadership skills is directed at all nurses, and that's the importance of having a truly global perspective or mindset. A global perspective means that you're really aware of the bigger world around you, and that awareness causes you to look at problems or concerns or solutions in a global context. It also means that you have the cultural skills to interact with people from all over the world, because the world really is shrinking. And having a global perspective allows you to realize how closely intertwined economics and politics and culture have become globally. And likewise, almost every single professional nursing issue now should be viewed through a global perspective. For example, there continues to be a need to establish international standards for nursing education, or to identify global competencies for novice nurses. We started to do some real work on this effort in 2009, but it was just a beginning. We still need to have documents that really have some teeth, that talk about what's the education that should be in place for somebody to call themselves a nurse. Because the definition of nursing and the educational path to become a nurse really does vary worldwide. We also need to look at the current healthcare professional shortages from a global perspective. There are shortages right now in both developed and developing countries, even those who are currently exporting nurses. So healthcare leaders in all countries have to be increasingly aware that the actions they take to recruit nurses from other countries impacts those countries in a very significant way. So we can no longer afford to act in isolation. We have to work with and protect the most vulnerable healthcare systems in the world. We've also been reminded that the healthcare threats that are faced by any one country are ultimately faced by all countries. Pandemics are no longer restricted to under-resourced countries. They're either already here or they're one short flight away. And I think this really came home to us with the COVID pandemic in 2020. Even infectious disease experts, I think, were really stunned by the speed and ease in which this infection was transmitted, among individuals, not only across national borders, but across international borders. And when you look at the impact that COVID has had on every single country in terms of social, cultural, economic, educational, political, and healthcare institutions, it's simply been unprecedented. The pandemic also raised many new questions about ethics and equity as we all grappled with critical shortages of personal protective equipment, of trained healthcare professionals, of hospital beds, ventilators, and how best to allocate and distribute scarce vaccines. So there's a quote that I want to read you by an individual named DeCastro. And DeCastro said that during better times, we manage to live as if we have separate lives whose mutual and interdependent connections we can downplay or entirely overlook. I think COVID brought this myth really to the forefront because our lives are all so intertwined around the world that we need to watch out for, work with, and learn from each other. And finally, a last strategy I just want to throw out there for those of you who feel like you could do a little bit to bolster your global mindset. Take a look at the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They really do form a blueprint for all world countries in terms of addressing global healthcare issues. These 17 goals suggest that we all have to work together collaboratively and with shared ownership before we're going to be able to solve the complex healthcare issues that we face worldwide. And then the final suggestion I have for you as part of your celebration today is to remember that when you're trying to lead in uncertain times, to stop and take a breath when that leadership journey gets hard. Remember that leadership is a destination. That leadership is not a destination. It's a journey. So there are going to be a lot of bumps in the road. And sometimes you're going to wonder why you've taken the path that you've taken. But there's also going to be great joy and a tremendous sense of satisfaction when you are successful, especially if you're pushing yourself to try to do something new or something that's difficult. So, the road to leadership that each one of you will pursue will likely be very different. That's the great thing about nursing and leadership. We don't have to think alike, look alike, or want the same things. But what we do share as leaders is the potential to positively influence others and the life journeys that they choose to embark upon. In fact, I think as nurses that we often discount the impact that we can have on other people's lives. Nursing is very powerful and it makes such a significant difference in healthcare. So, in conclusion, I want to say congratulations again to all of you nurses all around the world. Be confident in who you are as an emerging nurse leader and in what you have to share with others. All of you are heroes in healthcare. You're also all leaders. So embrace these two roles and make a difference in the lives of the people that you touch. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your celebration today and to be a part of this. And I'd be happy to take some questions or comments. And I thank you again for letting me be here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Huston, for the insightful discussion on leadership. So, hearing this, we shall be listening to three renowned Filipino nurse leaders sharing their respective perspective and experience as to leading during uncertain times.
They will be echoing the collective voices of the nurses in various sectors in the Philippines.
The first reactor is the National President of the Philippine Nurses Association, Mr. Melbert Reyes.
Our second reactor is coming from nursing education, and we shall be hearing from the Dean of the School of Nursing of St. Louis University and at the same time the National President of the Association of Deans of Philippine Colleges of Nursing, Dr. Mary Grace Lacanaria.
Lastly, representing nursing administration, we have with us the former Director of Nursing of San Juan de Dios Hospital, former President of the Association of Nursing Service Administrators of the Philippines, and currently the Vice President for the Nursing Service Directorate of the Manila Doctors Hospital, Dr. Rodolfo Borromeo.
President Melbert, you may start now.
Yes, good morning to all. Pleasant morning to all of you. To Dr. Huston, Carol Huston, congratulations for your wonderful presentation, very insightful one. It was a pleasure hearing your wisdom. Truly, mentorships provide the meaningful opportunities for growth. It honed me of whoever I am now as a leader and as a current president of the Philippine Nurses Association. Before I became the president, I was just a governor trying hard to help and be part of the solution of things PNA need to address. I became vice president and was mentored by great nursing leaders that develops my broader understanding of our beloved organization. That's why I recognize mentorship as a very fruitful part of being a leader. Dr. Houston is right that self-perception are not always entirely accurate. Just like what Sister Calista Roy said, no man thinks alike. Your perception is different from others, or the way you see things might be different from others. Mentoring means helping a person make significant and lasting progress in their professional development by exploring their skills, motivation, and goals. It is nurturance indeed. A good beginning would be assured and be more wonderful if there is somebody guiding you to the right path and direction. Young ones wanted to be mentored, for them to be guided and be given constructive feedback by the right person. The mentor guides the other person to find their own way rather than teaching a specific path to success. It is right choose to be mentored by someone who have been through a process of what you wish to do or to be. Kaya nga po, I am always
banking my decision as the president of the Philippine Nurses Association, no, to the different experience of the Council of Leaders of Philippine Nurses Association, because they can offer insights and identify gaps in my knowledge and understanding. No? We all need a mentor who successfully do what you're passionate about and are willing to offer a hand. And as a mentee, you can share new perspective and skills so both of you can learn from each other. Benjamin Disraeli once said, "The greatest good you can do for another is not just to share your riches, but to reveal to him his own." Now that I am leading the accredited professional organization for nurses, I agree that leadership is indeed very challenging, that every obstacle and challenges will be hurdled, for I believe in what John Maxwell said, a leader is great not because of his power, but because of his or her ability to empower others. Again, congratulations, Dr. Huston, for your very wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Melbert of the Philippine Nurses Association. I will be hearing from Dr. Mary Grace Lacanaria.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Carol, for the beautiful and enlightening presentation. Indeed, I agree with you when you said that every nurse is a leader. And in terms of the academic parlance, where I am currently affiliated right now, a lot of the initiatives are already being done to streamline the educational training of the Filipino nurses so that they become globally competitive as well, aside from being locally responsive. There was a recent change in the nursing curriculum, which we benchmark from the nursing curricula from other countries. And there is now emphasis on the program outcomes or competencies on leadership and management, collaboration and coordination, quality assurance and quality improvement, and ethical legal practice. That is, of course, aside from competencies in providing safe quality care. And I think I remember encountering one of your books, Carol. You are indeed worth emulating. And I would say that you and also Dr. Violeta Lopez can be considered as nurse champions, worth emulating. And obviously, you have directly and indirectly influenced other nurses to be leaders in their own experiences. Likewise, although we are talking about local responsiveness for our Filipino nurses, which means that they have to be sensitive to the needs of the Filipinos. They have to respond and contribute significantly and influence the nurses in the country right now, and to have and to take pride of being a Filipino. And likewise, we also develop our Filipino nurses to be, as I mentioned earlier, globally competitive. Not that we want all our Filipino nurses to go out, leave the country and work abroad, but we also would like the Filipinos who may decide to stay in the country to possess the competencies of a Filipino comparable to the competencies of nurses in other countries. As it is, you would see that Filipino nurses who are now working abroad are holding different leadership and administrative positions. They are now spearheading a lot of researches that are now influencing practice of nursing around the world. And as we said, they are now significantly contributing to nursing and health. I would also like to share my experience as a member of the Technical Committee for Nursing Education under the Commission on Higher Education. And one of the projects that we are now doing is trying to make the nursing programs, not just the undergraduate, but also the graduate programs, more responsive and relevant. At the moment, we are now revising the curriculum for the Master of Science in Nursing program, where we will eventually have an academic track and a professional track. And the professional track will prepare the graduates, the graduate nurses, to be certified as advanced practice nurses. This is something that we have been longing for among our Filipinos because other countries are already far ahead in terms of advanced practice nursing. Likewise, we are also in the process of formalizing the different competencies of nurses to be certified under the career progression program as advanced nurse practitioner or advanced clinicians with close partnership with the Professional Regulation Commission. Eventually, these initiatives will further highlight what Filipino nurses can do and would highlight how Filipino nurses can make a difference in nursing and in the health of the people. So thank you so much.
Let us now have one of the board members of ANSAP, Dr. Rodolfo Borromeo.
Well, for me, it is indeed very refreshing, Carol, to listen to your topic about how you manage to envision what deemed to be vital in the formation of leaders or leadership journeys of our aspiring nurses, especially the students and the nurses themselves. Almost exactly what I have experienced during my formative years in nursing school. Well, there were times, there were challenges and several, difficulties. But then again, it really speaks of how I managed to overcome those challenges and build my own leadership right now. While in broader sense, my personal journey was not really a walk in the park, like what I said. But these challenges taught me a lot of experiences and managed to use these experiences to what we are doing right now in terms of our initiatives. May I just stress out some important points of reflections from your very powerful talk on the nursing students, the nurses, and their mentors themselves. Let's try to look at the nursing students. They have to start looking beyond their clinical roles and see stronger disposition by gaining confidence. Really, confidence really matters a lot. It's not just exposing yourself and not really explicitly motivated by people around you. And you have to really build your innate confidence in order for you to be more experienced in performing your clinical tasks. In such a way, this will allow you to discover your innate leadership potential. It's really very important. There's an innate leadership in you that has to be brought out from you. And in the same manner, in order for you to really bring out the best from you, best leadership from you, you really have to gain confidence from what you are doing. You have to develop love of caring for the patients. And another point is trying to look at their mentors, especially mentoring starts from nursing schools. And we're talking of faculty members who should look at what best guidance and support our nursing student can receive from you. And who are considered as their mentors in the field. Student and mentor relationships has to be established very well and have each one share their responsibilities to build an atmosphere of learning, not an atmosphere of fear. I caught what you have said about incivility and bullying. That's really very, very glaring right now, not only in nursing schools, but most especially in the hospital. For us in our health facility, we are we have built a no blame culture, and of course, from the no blame culture, they will be able to express confidently their thoughts, wisdom, and they can freely suggest to our team in order for us to grow and learn from these experiences and really engage people not only at the top leadership level, but we have to reach out and collaborate more with our nurses. And another point is if I may quote in one of your slides, it says, even experienced workers need mentors. And that's really very important. You have to build confidence in them. I mean, you have to really lay down all things that they can learn from you in order for them to reach their full capacity, and at the same time build their own leadership pathway. And one way is not really looking at leadership as a position. It's not a factor about legitimizing authority. It's leadership starts from the staff nurses, starts from the ground level. If they start leading, they will be liberalized. They have the liberty to assert and challenge protocols. You have to just listen to these people because they can contribute a lot. I mean, no one has the monopoly of knowledge. And you, if you listen to them, you will have, you are building a shared governance, and that's really very important for every organization. Mentors in the hospital likewise should open their minds and share the same thoughts as well. And this prepares future generation of leaders. There are a bunch of leaders going on around the hospital, even in not really given a position or authority to lead. But you are building your blocks of leadership in order for you to strengthen your succession. And the end point of everything, just to close my reaction, the impact would be generating a stronger leadership workforce capable of thinking globally. And I like the one that you mentioned about the sustainable development goals. I mean, the 17 SDGs are really very important to be enculturated in leadership, and they will be given the capacity to decide ethically and critically, which are paramount important to the demands of healthcare worldwide. So thank you very much for the very powerful speech, and I really admire the things that you have shared, Carol, and thank you very much for inspiring all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Melbert, Dr. Lacanaria, and Dr. Borromeo. Before we proceed to the next session, we would like to acknowledge the presence of one of our nursing leaders in the Philippines, Dr. Maria Irma Bustamante, the president of the Philippine Nursing Research Society.
Apart from our reactors, we have colleagues in the session who also would want to interact with Dr. Huston and be clarified on certain matters about leadership in this uncertain time. Precious?
Dr. Houston, we have a question here from a colleague. It goes, how did the pandemic change the leadership in nursing? Is the pandemic a hindrance or a stepping stone to a new leadership?
I think that people have always appreciated and respected nurses. It's just a global thing. Certainly, the public considers nurses to be highly ethical. They recognize that nurses often lead from the heart and their selflessness in terms of caring for others. I think the pandemic, though, provided cameras and insight and newspaper articles and whatnot about the real differences that nurses were making in patients' and family lives. And so I think that, and I'm not taking anything away from physicians, but nurses do form the core of almost every country's, the backbone of their healthcare system. And it is pictures of nurses that you see day after day, tired nurses who have given selflessly throughout this entire pandemic. So I think that anytime the public has the opportunity to see what it is that nurses do that makes a difference, and to show or demonstrate that nurses are highly educated, competent healthcare professionals that make decisions that truly impact patient outcomes, that is good for nursing. But my heart goes out to all of those nurses who have worked tirelessly at the front line for something that has gone on for quite some time. I said it in my introductory comments, and I certainly mean it. Nurses truly are heroes in the healthcare system, and I applaud all of you for the work that you have done, particularly during this pandemic.
Thank you for those insights, Dr. Carol. Before we proceed, we would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Zomar Maravilla, Mr. Jason Katiwa, and Dr. Cindy Lay of the Health Cove Project. They are with us here this morning. Another would be, we would like to thank as well Dr. Rosanna Loxin, who is watching this session live via our Facebook live stream. On to our next question. Dr. Carol, I believe you met our next colleague, Dr. Mila De Llanes, years ago when they hosted the conference in University of San Tomas way back, and you met her once again in 2017 during the SETI Biennial Conference in Indiana. She expresses her thankfulness, and gratitude for being with us here this morning here in the Philippines. And she would want to be addressing this question to you, but I'll be reading it for her. May I know your thoughts about the distinct attributes or competencies does a leader need to demonstrate in this darkest moment of our time? Thank you very much.
Oh, there are several that kind of just jump right to the forefront. One is courage. I think the entire pandemic has required courage because of the uncertainty. There was a lot that we didn't know or understand at the beginning, and it was oftentimes more courage that was leading us than knowledge or insight. And so I think you have to recognize that willingness to take risk, to understand what's really important. But I would also say that another competency that really has emerged is our ability to access evidence, to make sure that the decisions, because our decision making has never been more critically important, but to make sure that the decisions that we are making are driven by evidence, by knowledge, that we can become representatives to our patients and to the general public to make sure that they have appropriate and accurate information on which to make their healthcare decisions, again, around the pandemic. Those are the things that really jump immediately to the forefront.
Thank you very much, Dr. Huston. We have another question from Mr. Kenneth Myro Garcia. What tips can you share to us novice nurse educators in handling harsh and rude nursing leaders?
Oh, that's $1 million question. First of all, and I alluded to it earlier, I don't think that we should ever condone bullying and incivility. And I think that sometimes in female-dominated professions, there's a higher degree of bullying. But certainly when I look at how I have seen some of our newest members or nursing students, newest members of the profession, novice nurses, we have not treated them with the kindness that they deserve. So sometimes just trying to gain an insight about where the hostility is coming from. Sometimes we spend inordinate amounts of time trying to get bullies to like us, and they may never like us. You may never be able to change their behavior. So my feedback would be continue to work hard, continue to improve yourself, be able to demonstrate what it is what unique expertise or knowledge or skill set that you will bring to your patient care to help them recognize that what you are doing is contributing to your patient's well-being and to improving, the work of the organization itself. But if somebody really is just a bully and they take great pleasure from it, then you can, depending on the culture, first of all, try not to work in a place that has a lot of bullies, because there are many healthcare organizations out there where that kind of behavior just simply is not tolerated. And I say that with a realistic, recognition that nursing students are grateful to have clinical placements wherever they can have them, and that you're kind of at the bottom of the rung in terms of official status and authority. But really seek mentors, seek others to help shield you from those kinds of really negative, non-growth productive kinds of feedback. If somebody offers you some constructive feedback, that's great, because I think we're always all learning with and from each other. But just gain some self-confidence in what it is that you do, build your expertise, and demonstrate a commitment to the goals of what it is that you're trying to do. And I also just want to put a little plug in for all of you who are more experienced and already have a little bit of power and authority. Help to guard against bullying for those that are newest to the profession. I think if more nurses were willing to stand up and say this kind of behavior should not be tolerated and won't be tolerated, I think it would go a long way to helping protect and support our newest nurses.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we proceed, I would like to read a comment coming from our participants, Dr. Jerome Babate. If you were to ask most executives what irritates them the most at work, the vast majority of them would say it is people who are late to meetings or events. Thanks for pointing out the importance of time, Carol. Highly appreciated. I'll try to compress two questions that are posted in our Q&A chat box that has something to do with picking leaders who are not prepared for the job. The questions are as follows. What are your thoughts about leaders picking up juniors to take the position without proper training? Secondly, what are your thoughts about leaders requiring juniors to actually pursue a doctorate degree for them to be better at their leadership roles that they are about to assume in the future?
I'll group my response to both questions. First of all, I want to just reiterate that leadership does not have to come from a formal position or authority or title. Sometimes I see the quietest individual who perhaps has had no formal leadership training be the person who finally steps up when nobody else is willing to. So I think that the more education you have, the better prepared you are to handle certain complexities, but you don't have to have a lot of formal education to be a leader. You do have to have courage, and you have to be self-aware. You have to be willing to take risks, and you have to be genuinely committed to working with others and empowering them to become better at whatever their skill set is. So higher education, I would love to see every nurse gain as much education as he or she can possibly get. I would also love to see each nurse start to really think about themselves as a leader, whether it's a leader at the bedside, a leader in a formal management role, a leader in terms of planning patient care or doing research, or the many ways that we can be leaders. But no, I don't think that formal education or position is necessary for you to step up and be a leader. It's just a willingness to step out and to try to make a difference for others.
Thank you very much, Dr. Houston. We will be entertaining last two questions from the Q&A box. We have here Mr. Gabriel Sapalaran from the Philippine Nursing Association in Alabama. The question is, from bedside to the boardroom, what are the two things that you have learned during pandemic as a nurse leader?
Boy, that's a great question. I have many family members who are nurses at the bedside right now during the pandemic. And I think that what I have learned from them is the importance of self-care, that when you give so much of yourself to others every single day and you see so much death and illness and loss and trauma, that we as nurses often give almost everything that we've got. And when we get done, we don't have anything left for ourselves. So I would say, remember that you need time to reflect and recover and rest. And then from the boardroom, I would say my big lesson learned is that nurses make a difference, that the quality of nurses that you have really makes a difference in terms of whether or not patients get better or not. So nurses are the backbone of the healthcare system. That would be my boardroom takeaway.
You know what, Dr. Carol, there are a lot of our colleagues who are very interested with the topic, as evidenced by the number of questions we see popping in our chat box. But with the interest of time, we can only accommodate two more. So for the rest of those who will not be catered in this live session of like answering. Dr. Carol Huston will be catching up later on, answering them offline, typing
I
her
will.
comments with all of your questions. But we will be down to the last two, which are quite important to be addressed in this live session. This came from an anonymous attendee, but the question is very substantial. How can nurses who does not have that much endowed leadership roles assert to policymaking bodies how important resource constrained settings are? So how can you like suggest among our nursing leaders slash those who are not endowed with actual leadership roles assert their concerns to policymaking bodies?
That's a great question. I would answer that by saying that oftentimes one of my greatest concerns about nursing is that sometimes we have been invisible to policymakers or to individuals who are making decisions not only about healthcare but also about our own profession. So taking courses in leadership and management and policy and politics and anything that gives you the skill sets you need to interact with decision makers and to become an active part of decision making around healthcare is absolutely critical. I, for example, I think that each and every nurse should have some kind of media training so that nurses know how to interact with a reporter, whether it's television or whether it's online. And I think that oftentimes nurses step back and let other healthcare professionals step up and speak for them. So the more that you can learn about how do you interact with the media, how can I be articulate, how can I learn to frame my thinking in terms of bullet points, um, all of those skills will better prepare you to feel confident enough to step up and offer information or offer an opinion and to be a more active part of that decision making.
Thank you very much, Dr. Houston. The last question will be coming from one of the generous guest lecturers at the School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences at Holy Angel University. We have Dr. Roberto Sombilio. The question is, do you think that there should be a formal mentoring training program for both nurses in the practice and education?
My answer would be ideally, every new graduate would be paired with a mentor or a preceptor or somebody who agrees to kind of help guide them during those early years. Sometimes I worry about formal mentoring programs in that people are kind of randomly assigned. In a true mentoring relationship, the mentor identifies or selects the protege. And I can tell you that I think that that's too narrow. I know that there have been times in my life where I approached individuals to ask for a mentoring relationship. And there are times where I have approached individuals who are starting their career because I noticed that there was something I felt that I could offer them that they might appreciate. So I would say yes, as long as the relationship is not so formalized that it loses its meaning or that it becomes a pro forma kind of thing where this is my mentee, I'm going to call them every 6 months and just say, how are you doing? I think the most important thing for you, if you're a new nurse or you want to find a mentor, is to really spend some time in self-reflection, thinking about what it is that you want from that mentoring relationship. Are there specific skill sets or areas of knowledge that you need help with? Because sometimes I do a lot of mentoring for a lot of young novice nurses. But when they come to me, I always ask them to really give some thought to having clarity about how best can I help them? What exactly do they want or need from me? Because that helps me tailor that relationship and tailor the time that we spend together so that we can focus on what's really important. So if you can formalize that kind of a relationship where you can really look at what are the skill sets or competencies that these mentors have and what are the skill deficits or the areas that mentees or proteges want to learn more about, and then match them up according to that, I think any kind of a formal mentoring program would be just a tremendous asset.
Thank you very much, Dr. Houston, for being so generous answering all of these questions given to us by our colleagues. As a fitting closure for this segment, I would like to read the message given to us by one of our Filipino nursing leaders, Dr. Teresita Barcelo, I definitely agree that formal education or title is not needed for a nurse to be a leader, but definitely enough knowledge is important to feel confident for one to lead. Thank you very much for motivating us, Dr. Houston. That's basically from Dr. Tita Barcelo. Thank you, Dr. Tita, for being with us this morning.
I also wanted to just say thank you. I was really in awe of the panel of reactors. Your comments were very insightful, and I greatly appreciated the addition to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carol. At this juncture, we would now honor you, our esteemed speaker, and our panel of reactors by presenting you the certificates of appreciation for this session.
Allow me to read the citation. The Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network, Holy Angel University School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences, and the Philippine Nurses Association award this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Carol Huston for sharing her valuable knowledge as a resource person for the webinar entitled Leading in Uncertain Times in celebration of Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day 2021, given the 7th of May, Manila, Philippines. Signed, Dr. Violeta Lopez, President of FAAN, Dr. Albi Ag, Dean of HAUS NAMS, and lastly, Sir Melbert Reyes, President of the PNA.
Thank you very much.
To our reactors, the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network and Holy Angel University School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences award this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Mary Grace Lacanaria for sharing her invaluable insights as reactor for the webinar entitled Leading in Uncertain Times in celebration of Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day 2021, given the 7th day of May 2021 in Angeles City, Philippines. Signed, Dr. Aldi Biag, Dean, HAU School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences, and Dr. Violeta Lopez, President, FAAN.
Same certificate is awarded to Mr. Melbert Reyes, President of the PNA.
And lastly, the same certificate is given to Dr. Rodolfo Borromeo. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
In closing, we shall hear words from a passionate and committed nursing leader. Friends, let us all welcome ADPCN Region 3 President, PNA Pampanga Chapter President, and the Dean of the School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences at Holy Angel University, Dr. Al Biag.
Colleagues and friends, let me begin by thanking Dr. Carol Huston, the speaker and resource person in this webinar on nursing leadership and management. Indeed, her expertise and experience on the topic enrich our understanding and deepen our appreciation of the complex and dynamic nature of nursing leadership. Her simple and grounded explanation of the concepts made it easy for novice and experienced nurses attending today to consider assimilating the lessons imparted to their individual practice. The presentation about leading in uncertain times is further augmented with the context-specific reaction of the three respected Filipino nursing leaders. Thank you, Dr. Mary Grace Lacanaria of the Association of Deans of Philippine Colleges of Nursing, Dr. Rodolfo Borromeo of the Association of Nursing Service Administrators of the Philippines, and Philippine Nurses Association National President Melbert Reyes for sharing your time and insights on the matter. Your attendance to this fine day is a strong show of solidarity with interest groups like the Filipino Nursing Diaspora Network to advance the cause of nursing and the welfare of nurses. Lastly, this momentous event would not be possible without the commitment and dedication of the men and women behind FAAN Network. On behalf of the School of Nursing and Allied Medical Sciences, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Violeta Lopez. Mr. Jerome Babate, and Dr. Cindy Lee for letting us co-sponsor this webinar. Our collaboration has proven that the current pandemic and the physical distance are no hindrance in the achievement of our common goal. With this, I would like to say maraming salamat po sa inyo. I would like to end this by what we are used to saying in Holy Angel University, Laus Deus Semper, praise to God always.
Friends, once again, that was Dr. Biag. We thank all of you, our colleagues in the various sectors of nursing work, for sharing your valuable time with us today.
Certainly, we have unlearned and relearned important tenets in leadership that we can apply in our respective workplaces.
With this, we request that you indulge us with your comments and suggestions so that you may send us through the evaluation link in our chat box, or you may also scan the QR code flash on our screen.
We thank you once again, our dear colleagues.
This is Elmer, and it has been a pleasure virtually meeting all of you today.
This is Precious until our next session.
Laus Deus
Semper.
Praise to God always. Thank you very much once again, everyone, for gracing us with your presence this morning.
And I will try to stay on and answer some of these Q&As that we didn't have time to do in person. Thank you again.
Thank you. We will be turning over the virtual floor to our tech person, Mr. Norel Calaguas, for the other announcements as to the gallery photo shoot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Elmer. Thank you, Doc Precious. Thank you again, Dr. Carol, for the wonderful presentation and, of course, your generosity with time. So I'll be requesting all of the panelists for a group photo to be taken. So if you may kindly open your cameras. All right. May we request Sir Melbert and Sir Jason? Oh, Sir Melbert can't. Okay. So thank you again. We'll be taking a photo. Formal, ready. 1, 2, ready. All smiles. All right. One more. All smiles. 1, 2, ready. And we love wacky photos in the Philippines, Doc Carol. So could you please indulge us with a wacky pose? Thank you so much, Doc Carol. So despite the infirmity, for making time to be with us. And that ends our session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Fine.
Carol,
Thank you,
for
Dr.
the
Borromeo,
excellent
Dr.
presentation that you
Lacanaria,
gave to our
Sir Melbert.
second annual
Thank
Filipino
you.
Nursing Diaspora Day.
Thank you, everyone. And nice to see you, Ma'am Cindy.
Nice to see everyone.
And yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for letting me be a part. I was so impressed by this event. Thank you so much for your hard work in putting it on.
Thank you so
Carol,
much.
Thank you very much, Carol. I'll get in touch with you later. Thank you.
Paalam po.
Great work, Noriel.
Thank you,
And
Doc
group.
Cindy.
Thank
Sir
Noriel,
Paolo.
Sir Elmer. Thank you very much. Sir Al,
Thank you for everyone at HAU.
Ma'am Precious, thank you very much. That's a very good performance.
Thank you po.
You raised the level.
Sabi nga po ni Doc Cindy, we should rise to the occasion.
You did. You did.
Thank you po. Yeah, so we'll be keeping the session on so that Doc Carol could answer other questions in the Q&A. But yeah, congratulations again and happy Filipino Nursing Diaspora Day. Thank you so much again po for the opportunity to work with FAAN.
Thank you for the opportunity to. Tita Sin, we miss you so much.
I do too. So we're going to have another session, perhaps more informal, but definitely with